what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again, because we got a really great special episode today. We have a legend in the studio, Paul Brown. This is his intro video real quick. So, Paul, thank you for joining me. Thanks for being here and joining us on the podcast.
And I will say that I'm not related to the Paul Brown.
The king of Cleveland?
Well, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's cool is, I'll tell you this little story real quick. My son got married in Paul Brown Stadium. Yeah, you can rent it out.
Really?
Yes, you can. There's part of it that you can rent it out. And so he rented it out, got married there. They took us... Him, the best men, myself, and the bride, they took a tour of the locker room.
Oh, that's awesome.
They allowed them on the field, and when they got married, it started snowing and stuff. So they're on the field. The snow's coming down. It's kind of crazy. So we're walking around, and underneath the stadium, there's these cardboard boxes that they put the trash in. And it says Paul Brown Stadium on the side. And so I asked the lady that was taking us around, I said, hey, can I get one of them? And she looked at me like, the hell do you want one of them? I said, well, because my name's Paul Brown, I think it would be cool to have it around my house. It is not. I said, it is. So I didn't have my wallet on me, so I had to run out to the car and come in and show her my driver's license. And she said, yeah, okay, I'll give you a couple. So she gave me those. She gave me a couple cups that has Paul Brown Stadium on it.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So anyway, I'm not related to any of them, unfortunately. Well, you know what's funny is people would say, hey, are you related to Paul Brown, the Paul Brown Stadium? Yeah. I said, yeah. I said, now, you know what? I said, I'll call down there and tell them you can have 2 front row tickets up in the press box. Just tell them you know me and walk in.
I would love to have been there when it played out, right? Just so, on that note, we're talking football. We might as well move on to the first article from this morning.
Well, I think we ought to talk about how we met first.
Yeah, we should. So, Paul Brown and I know each other from law school. So, Paul joined me the first year of law school. We were able to plug through the misery of law school together, and we got to know each other by our way to vent and break away from the stress of law school was to play a couple rounds of golf. And Paul got to, stress through the misery of my terrible golf game, but we still had fun on some beautiful days and some cold ones too.
And still do.
And still do.
Yeah.
And still do.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I didn't make it past the first semester, but that's okay too because I was able to do other things.
I was about to say, you saved yourself from the hell that is law school.
Right.
So one of the first topics for us to talk about is something that has been overplayed for too long now, and I think we might be finally getting to the final chapter. But on this podcast, we used to talk about Antonio Brown, throughout the whole process of him. Is he going to be playing in the NFL? Is he not going to be playing on the NFL? So yesterday, he tweeted, "Imagine conforming to a system, giving it 100% to see them treat me like this is unfairly." Again, this is Antonio Brown's language. Making money off my sweat and blood, F the NFL. I'll never play in that, whatever. They treat black people the worst. Clear my name and go F yourself. And he very shortly deleted this, and the tweet to follow was, within minutes he deleted it and said, "I'm just very frustrated right now with the false allegations and slander to my name. I love football and I miss it. I just want to play and I'm very emotional about that. I'm determined to make my way back to the NFL." So not only are those completely two different, tweets, like first go F yourself to, I'm frustrated, I want to play again. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy, one, it seems like the CTE is getting to him and just breaking him down. But two, I feel like it's great that he's finally out and we don't have to worry about him. But I want to ask you, what do you think of Antonio Brown? This whole circus he brings to every team he's on. We watched his struggle with Pittsburgh, and now, Tom Brady did come out and say he wished the Patriots didn't release him. But how do you think the NFL should approach Antonio Brown in his situation? Should we throw him out or give him another chance?
I think the whole problem is the whole professional sports.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, if you're a good player, and I don't care what sport it's in, come and play the game. And you know what? The accolades will follow you.
Right.
You don't have to put out anything extra. You don't have to, crazy tweets, crazy stuff on the field. The guys that get the most respect are the guys that score a touchdown and walk off. Because you know what? That's your job. That's what you're getting paid millions to do. When I was doing taxes and I would finish somebody's taxes, do you think I jumped up and slammed their tax return down and danced around and say it? No,
it's just your job.
It's my job, and it's their job too. I mean, I understand that it's all about entertainment, and you're trying to bring people in, and that's how you get people fired up and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of people that just like to watch the game for the game.
Right.
And if you're playing the game, like I said, and you're a good athlete, the accolades will follow you.
Right.
And people will follow you. I mean, I always look at Cal Ripken. Every day does his job. He never did anything crazy. You didn't see him in the newspaper because it was boring. But the accolades followed him. He did what he was supposed to do. He played the game. He got a lot of respect from a lot of people. And some of these other guys, they don't get any respect because they don't exude the respect for the game and for themselves.
Right.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a good player. So, how about just playing the game? If you came to my team and you just played the game, I think that's what Tom Brady was talking about when he said, "I wish they wouldn't have cut him," because he knows he's a good player. So come to the team, play the game. I'll get the ball to you. You'll do what you're supposed to do, and everybody will be happy.
Right.
Who's the guy that the Browns just picked up? The wide receiver.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Same situation.
Right.
Now I haven't seen too much about him recently in the paper
even just
stuff.
Last weekend, him and Jarvis, his buddy, at halftime had to change their shoes because he came out in Joker cleats and Jarvis came out in gold cleats, and the NFL decided that there's 5 minutes left in the second quarter. We'll let you finish, but at halftime you have to change your cleats. Well, that's a distraction in the middle of the game we don't need to be worrying about. He's got his gold watch at the beginning of the season. Ironically, the next article we were going to, and this is the perfect time to transition into it, was how one of the things that the Browns are struggling with is how Baker has to force feed the ball to Odell. Well, there's a couple layers to this. To your point on just play the game, do your job. When we have guys like, and I've been saying it forever, when you have guys like Myles Garrett or Nick Chubb who are, Myles Garrett might get Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Chubb is arguably one of the best running backs in the league. You never hear from him. I don't even know Nick Chubb's voice, and he's arguably the best guy on our football team. So here's a guy that just plays the game. Now, when he fumbles and stuff, he's not taking the opportunity to deflect onto another player. Oh, it's this person, it's that, because you don't hear from him to begin with. Baker never takes accountability because he just sits there and runs his mouth forever to put blame on, and he never puts blame on himself. In fact, that same game where Odell and everybody's changing their shoes and playing the charade of theater, Baker shaved his mustache 3 times. But before the game, in the middle of the game, and after the game, we got to see this guy with 3 different versions of facial hair. And we don't think this is distracting you? So to your point, exactly, it's like, not only is this a problem in other sectors, but it also transfers to your playing. Like, the way you're playing the game and the play that you transfer onto the field is also affected. So I 100% agree with your point.
Yeah. And it's a shame because the diehard sports fans want to come and watch the game, and they really want to get behind a team. They really want to get behind the players. But when they do crazy things like that, it's kind of like, does he have respect for the team? And does he have respect for the game? And if he doesn't have the respect for it, then I don't have respect for him. So I can't follow him anymore. I just can't.
And exactly. It doesn't matter how good the numbers are. At the end of the day, again, maybe this is a character flaw of mine, but I judge most of these people just based on their character, right? Like, Myles Garrett may not get Defensive Player of the Year. Regardless, he's still going to be my favorite player because the dude writes poetry in his free time, right? Like, here's the dude that looks like the Goliath from, King Kong, and he just goes home at the end of the day, does his job, because his focus is to be a great player.
Right.
And you don't see that enough. And because that isn't a characteristic that's praised, people don't want to be like that. People want the Instagram cameras flashing at them and stuff.
So, 2 stories. Lynn Swann,
Okay.
he took up ballet
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
back in his playing days because he knew that it would help him with his flexibility and his movement and stuff like that. So he did that. And then also a player that used to play for the Rams way back when was Rosie Greer. He did needlepoint.
Oh, wow.
So, and he was a big
Yeah,
dude.
he's
Yeah. So you have all, and of course you don't hear about that stuff because, one, there wasn't tweets back then, but he's not in. Both those guys weren't in front of the cameras, just being non-football players. I mean,
Right.
But again, you have to take into consideration. Today it's all about entertainment.
Right, it is.
It's not some. I mean, there's a lot of skill there, but the majority of it is about entertainment. How can I get people's dollars, either by them coming to the game or by them watching on TV or whatever the case may be? And the only way I can do that is by sensationalizing the game. It's the same way with newspapers and things that you see coming across the internet. How can I get people to pay attention to it? Well, I have to sensationalize it somehow. How can I do that? How can I take this boring article and make it so that people say, "Oh,
Right. Oh, yeah. Always flashy clickbait with titles and stuff, 100%.
Yeah.
And
So you're clicking through here, and I saw something that said something about Las Vegas sleeping in the streets.
oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, because I thought when you said, "Oh yeah, we're going to talk about this topic right there," because you said we're going to talk about this topic, and I'm looking and it says
Las Vegas has passed a controversial law that bans sleeping on the street and imposes punishments of a $1,000 fine and 6 months in prison. Now, what's ironic is this reminded me of a debate. So I told you I did debate in high school. One of the debate topics was a Pennsylvania county outlawed panhandling. And so you weren't able to panhandle on public streets. And we had to do a debate topic on that. So what's really interesting is, Paul, now I want to know, you're totally derailed, but I'm so I'm curious. What do you feel about legislation that kind of hides, it doesn't do anything to help or prevent a very real social problem, but in fact masks it and hides it from the public?
So my partner and I have been watching The Wire.
Yeah, okay.
And what the one officer in the Baltimore Police Department did by rounding up all the drug dealers and putting them into a section of Baltimore and saying, "Do your thing," because I realize that the drugs are going to be sold, but if I can take you out of the neighborhoods and put you in a marketplace and people can come to you and buy whatever drugs they want to buy, because we know it's going to happen.
Right.
Same thing here. You know it's going to happen. You have homeless people. They either have to be on the street for circumstances or they want to be on the street. Okay, so why not let's designate places in our cities.
I agree with that.
That can be tent towns or you can sleep there overnight or whatever the case may be. And and again, Las Vegas is all about the money.
Right. And a show on one street, mind you.
And if you're there's a couple different streets, but if you're walking down the street and you're tripping over people in sleeping bags and stuff, that's not conducive to them getting your money.
Right.
So why not round them up and take them to, I don't know, community park or take them out to the dam or whatever. Someplace designated so that because they have to be there.
Right.
For whatever reason, or they want to be there.
And so that's the next point to your... I agree with everything you said, and acknowledging... So when we would have these types of conversations, there's always the... I think it's... People would want to impose on your stance, or the other stance, that this is non-empathetic. You're heartless. What it is, and to your point, kind of what the foundation of your whole point is, we need to acknowledge why these people are in these positions to begin with, right? Whether it be mental health, whether it be some sort of personal situation, whether it's situational or mental, whatever it is, in many of these cases, it's almost unavoidable. It's almost inevitable that this person ends up where they're at.
Right.
And, when we talk about, there's Andrew Yang, the Democrat, he's running to be a Democrat presidential candidate, and he's running on the platform of universal basic income. And one of the caveats that comes with that policy is that everybody would get universal basic income, even those that are unwilling to work. And so what there is a concession in this is that no matter what, there will always be people unwilling to work. So again, I will always have a heart for the individual who is mentally impaired or is unable to hold down a job or hold some kind of civility because of their situation, but most of these situations are unavoidable.
But it comes down to, are they willing to work? Because I work for an organization that deals with people with developmental disabilities, and a lot of those individuals want to work.
Right.
But because of either physical or some sort of mental disability, their level of work is less than others.
Right.
But they're willing to work. That, to me, is a big difference between people who are willing to work but at a diminutive level,
right,
versus somebody who absolutely don't want to work at all, and they want to get things, and I want things for free, and I know I can get things for free. So why should I work?
Right.
Or I'm going to stand on the street corner and hold a sign up that says I'm homeless.
Especially when we're finding out those people are making like $80,000 a year panhandling.
So I thought I would do is I'd make up a sign, stand on the corner, and say I'm retired. I need spending money.
You'd probably get some cash.
Why
too.
not? I mean, and that's being lighthearted, but in a situation like this, again, we know it's going to happen, and we know some of the individuals want to be there, or they have to be there for whatever circumstances. And the point about income, it'll never happen.
Right.
Our country has always been run by rich white guys. Unfortunately, I mean that's just the way that it is. The guys that have the money, and they're not going to let it go.
Right. They have the money now. You can't take it away.
Well, revolution takes it away.
That's true too.
Overthrow takes it away, but they're not going to allow that to happen. They're smart enough to know that, okay, we'll do a little bit of programs over here, or we'll give some money over here, or we'll do this to keep the masses at bay, but I'm still going to keep my money.
Right. Yeah.
And there's nothing that's going to happen that's going to make me give up my money, because I control the government, I control business, I control the economics. I mean, I control all this stuff, and it's not going to change. And for us other 2%, right, of earnings, you either accept the fact that I'm never ever going to be in that 5%, and they're always going to control everything. So I can either get out of it what I can, or move on,
right,
go someplace else. And where else are you going to go? Because everybody else has the same kind of situation. So
that's the truth too, yeah. And I've always said that. Where else can you go? Right, yeah. Like this is the best place that you could probably try. Again, what you said, in these types of situations, you may have to. The only choice is a revolution or a pushback, and if there's any place that you might be able to possibly not get demolished, it's here, but you'll still probably get demolished.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Remember who's got the missiles, right?
Well, it always, every time you have some sort of revolution or some sort of huge change, and let's talk about the political situation. So we've always had a two-party system.
Right.
An independent will never, ever be a president, because who controls the newspapers? Who controls the media? So people with the money. And so if I'm controlling all these things, how are you ever going to get known?
Your voice out, yeah.
And you're not. And so you're going to end up, election day is going to come, and there's going to be 3 names on the ballot. And I know these 2 guys because they've debated, and they have their pictures plastered everywhere and all this sort of. But who's this person? I don't know. I'm not voting for him because I don't even know what this guy's about. And every time an independent has run, that has exactly what's happened. Either he's not allowed to join in the debates.
Yep.
Because who's debating? The Democrats and the Republicans. Well, what about the independent? Sometimes they allow them in there, but
even then they don't, because that was the next thing I was going to bring up. Is last year I took con law, and so I went and spoke with my professor to bring up a situation that I was aware of, but I wanted to get the actual details of the situation. So when we had Trump versus Hillary, we had Gary Johnson in the background running as a libertarian, and he was owed the right to be in the debates if he was able to get 15% support or more.
Right.
He got 16% support. He was owed being in the debate on CNN, the upcoming debate, and CNN, who's owned by the rich and powerful, as you have mentioned, and have the power and influence, said, no, we're just saying no. Like, this is our place. We are putting these two people on.
He's not allowed.
It's constitutionally owed to you. We're just going to say no. And then back to your game of, well, when he gets to go, wait, it's owed to me. All the rich white people get to go, wait, do we remind you who's the one enforcing the rules? Like, you're not going to tell us what to do. And so he had a constitutional right that was just totally forgotten about.
Well, he has a constitutional right, but I control the venue.
Right, exactly.
So take it to court. By the time you take it to court, the
got a
debate's
president.
over.
Right. And so it's a real shame. And so when I went and poked this problem with my professor, and even he was like, there's not, the worst thing ever is I'm taking administrative law this semester, and I went and took to him, Edward Snowden was on a podcast, and he goes, we don't make the agencies comply with the laws at all. What we do is we make the laws comply with what the agencies want to do. So the agency decides we want to do this, and then we just morph the law so it fits what they want to do. My administrative professor's like, yeah, no, that's admin law boiled down to the basic. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and that's been going on forever.
Right, right. And it's only, they keep moving the goalposts. It's only getting worse.
Yeah. One of the things about our society, too, I think, is we have so much discretionary income that if you look at, if you go, so my partner works for an auction company, and so when, you get old or you die, what happens to your stuff? Your kids can either take it and sell it, or you call it an auction company and they come and sell everything off. So either that happens, or they move into a nursing home or something like that, or you just want to downsize, whatever. So you call these people in, and she's amazed about how much stuff we accumulate
over our lives.
Over lifetime. Like this one guy had something like 10 hammers. How many how many hammers do you need? But,
I have 2, and I think I have too many.
Right, but the problem is we continue to accumulate that, and as you when you get out of law school and you start making your millions of dollars, you'll get into this big mansion. You have to fill it.
Yeah.
Right?
Like a pack rat.
And then you have a 5-car garage, but you only have 2 cars, so you have to fill the other 3 up with stuff. And then by the time you're 70, you have all this stuff that you've accumulated, and that's one of our problems with our society. I think is we have so much discretionary money. What do we do with it? I mean, we're buying rooms for our pets now.
Right?
We're setting up bedrooms, and we have people that are sleeping on the streets, and we're buying bedrooms for our pets, and paying how much? I don't even know how much a football ticket is.
Oh yeah, at least $150,
bucks
right?
To go watch a football game in a stadium which you can't get close to the field anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me, how much income we actually have and the things that we're spending on. And people really need to go overseas or South America or Africa or someplace to look at what the world has in comparison to what we have, and it's
right.
It's incredible.
And I'm
the
sure
amount of stuff.
And I'm sure through her experience, she's noticed as well that this tears families apart as well. Dad dies, passes everything on to the family, and the family breaks apart fighting over, the wealth or the home or the cars.
Or the non-wealth. Here's the other thing that happens is, so your parents pass away.
The debt.
Well, not just the debt, but your parents pass away, and you go to the house and say, oh, all this stuff is worth, $100,000. and people are bidding on it, and they're buying that one thing that you thought was worth 20,000. They're buying it for $10, and you're like, well, no, it can't be. Well, yeah, because that's the real true worth of it.
Right.
The worth of it is what somebody's willing to pay for it, not what you think it's worth.
That's a great point too. That's a great point.
I saw a show on baseball cards.
Okay.
So this guy, he was probably 50, 55. His dad passed away. And his dad, back in the early 70s, was really into baseball cards big time. I mean, when I was growing up, there wasn't that many baseball cards made. There wasn't that many companies. And so when you got a baseball card and it was somebody's rookie card, there might have only been 10 or 15 of those made, right? So this guy's dad was really into trading and making a lot of money and all that sort of stuff. So his dad passed away. He went back to the house, and his mom, there was one room full of baseball cards.
Oh, wow.
Some still in the boxes or whatever. And so he started to take some of those cards to card shows and talk to somebody there about, because again, he thinks he's going to make big time money because his dad did. Well, he gets to these card shows and nobody's buying anything because there's so many of them now that's out there,
right?
That they're not worth anything.
Exactly. And that was the weird transition when, through my childhood, my dad was obsessed with baseball cards. And, only naturally that obsession was passed on to me. But as somebody who's 8, 10, 12, growing up in early 2000 or, late 1990, I'm getting, they're prettier, right? They're more colorful, and I'm more distracted with this piece that has a little piece of a bat on it because this is Ivan Rodriguez's bat, or, whoever it was. Even though, my dad's just laughing at how asinine it is that I'm like, this is a piece of his jersey. He's like, I'll never forget. I mean, we would go to card shows. I was obsessed over these things. He just thought they were so dumb. And he's like, you do realize this was not a piece of a jersey. This was like just a sheet of cloth that they cut into a bunch of pieces. And I'm like, no, me and my neighborhood friends were fighting over like, no, this piece has like a piece of the patch too. Or, again, we were kids. We fell right into the trap. But I think that is then they weren't just making 14 Ivan Rodriguez jersey cards. There were like 1,000 of them. So now I'm paying $50 for something that no, but this is a piece of his jersey. It's really worth a lot. The amount of these things that I overpaid for a guy who's not, he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame or anything.
Right.
And now there's so many of them. That's valueless too. So I think the market just overflooded it with nonsense and over.
Well, the other thing that this guy said was, so what happened is Ken Griffey.
Yes.
Ken Griffey Jr. So his cards came out, and all of a sudden he was a good ball player. So what does the card companies do? Well, we have to generate another 50,000 of these things because everybody wants one. So they generated a whole ton of these cards and just flooded the marketplace with the cards because everybody wanted one. And so everybody started collecting them. It's like, ooh, these are very valuable because he's going to make it to the Hall of Fame and blah, blah, blah. But no, because there's 50,000 of them. There's not two.
Right.
So
who's the guy from the Pittsburgh Pirates that is like the most expensive baseball card in the country?
Is that Honus?
Yes,
Wagner?
it is. And it's because there's like one of them?
Well, and if you think about it, when I was growing up, we took baseball cards and put them in our spokes of our tires. And again, you collect you. The other thing, when I was growing up, you could follow a team for 10 years and they have all the same players. Right,
that's my dad.
And so you did that. So you just you collected the cards every year, and then nowadays is your player might be with Cleveland this year, next year is with the Angels, and the next year after that is with Texas, and so now you have to. I mean, it's like you can't even collect the whole team because what team is he on? So back in the day, and we would play cards with cards and all kinds of sort of stuff. So you actually used them. You didn't. buy a box of them, stick them in your closet for 15 years. We actually played with them, used them, so a lot of them got destroyed and tossed and whatever the case may be. And back then, whoever realized that you're going to pay $1 million for a card,
right?
I mean, so
that's true too.
It's kind of like we never even thought about those things. So yeah, those older cards, they're very valuable because there's only a few of them that are out there floating around. I did read a story about a guy who was remodeling some farm thing or something, and he found this old cigar box, and inside of it was some of those old cigarette baseball cards, because the cigarette companies are the ones that started doing that in the end of, I think it's WW2. They wanted to increase the sales of cigarettes or make their brand more known, so they started putting cards in there, trading cards.
Oh, wow.
And since baseball was starting to take off, they started putting baseball cards in those.
That's smart. That's really smart, especially during the time period it was in.
And then, of course, how do I entice kids to start collecting? I can't put them on cigarette packs. Let's put gum in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's put a piece of leather in it, and I'm putting gum.
What's funny is, even as a kid, because my dad loved Bazooka Joe packs, where you literally had a sheet of gum in a baseball card pack. Like, I remember he would have some of those in his cards, and they were like moldy and just white from all the. And what was funny is it's 2005, and I'm like, Bazooka Joe is still alive and running as a company, so I would buy those baseball cards. Worst gum I'd ever chewed in my life, bar none. Mm-hmm. But Bazooka Joe has good gum. It was just these baseball card gum was terrible.
Yeah. They weren't known for the gum. So.
But all right, so I really quick, just bringing it back. We'll finish up with the Browns real quick, but
they're not done already?
They're done. They're definitely done.
So my sons live outside of Cincinnati.
Of Cincinnati, right. And they're even worse. That's the best part.
I talked to my son the other day, and I said, so what's up with the Bengals? He said, what do you mean, the Bungles?
Yeah,
He said, I don't know. He said, there's just when you have a little bit of hope and you think it's going to happen, it doesn't. And so it's like.
You know what, though? So I went to Miami of Ohio, which is 20 minutes out of Cincinnati,
right.
And I just low-key have a real big... I mean, granted, we're all in the same division anyway, so we're already rivals, but I hate the Bengals, and they were so mean to me in college. All these Cincinnati people that are like, we want to remind you how bad you suck. It's like, you don't need to remind me. I know. But they were so adamant, and coming into this season, I'm like, it's going to come. Like, payday is around the corner. You're terrible. Like, at least their seasons of rebuilding are upon them, right? It's not going to turn around next year.
Right.
So I'm like, it's finally here. And Terrell, who works for the Ravens, is sitting here like, no, you're going to be surprised. They didn't lose anybody. They're going to be great. And he was really enforceful on like, they're going to be great. And just sitting back, and while we have a dumpster fire of our own, which, again, we have good players that aren't performing, watching this team just fail, right? Like, there's just not a redeeming quality at all on their team. Their defense, terrible. Joe Mixon, you just really want him to... Everything's falling apart at the seams, and it's like, good.
But here's a good point. So they got rid of the coach. Now, granted, the coach, he did some questionable things. Not questionable personal things, but questionable things on the field and the way the game plan and stuff is. But it just goes to show you that it's not the coach that wins and loses the games. It's the players,
right?
And if you don't perform at the level you should perform, you're going to lose.
But see, the only thing I would push back on that point is, I do believe what we're seeing in Cleveland is a coaching problem, solely because, again, Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, it doesn't matter who's at the helm for them. They're going to succeed.
Right.
But if we had Greg Williams in here, who is, he's the one out there paying his players to rip people's heads off, right? Like, this is an aggressive coach, no nonsense kind of guy. I don't think he would let the egos flourish the way they are. Right now, I think Freddie Kitchens is allowing the prisoners to run the asylum, and as a result, these egos are combating each other, and you need somebody to just cut the head off of the serpent.
I agree with that, but you need to have somebody on the field to take care of that, and it's not the
That's
coach.
true.
I mean,
You're right.
You have to have a leader on the field that grabs the guys, in a closed locker room without a coach in there, and just slap the silly out of them and say, you're getting paid millions of dollars. You're an adult. Let's go do what you need to do. And if you don't want to do that, give us $1 million back.
That's a great point. But instead, the person that's supposed to be doing that is in front of the mirror shaving his mustache one more time, right? So,
but why is it always the quarterback that has to be the guy that's in charge?
You're right. Again, but tell me if you disagree. I feel like the only person that could take on that position is somebody who would be arguably the best on the team. So it would have to be, Nick Chubb, who's quiet.
I disagree with that because it shows. Sometimes the guys that are the better players or the prima donnas, they may be the best players, but they also have the worst personalities.
Right.
So I think you need to have somebody who maybe one of the big linemen.
That's a great point. Joe Thomas was that for us.
Takes them and slaps somebody around and says, grow up. We're out here. I'm out here busting my butt every week.
Right.
For you to be goofy?
But see, the only thing that stinks, though, is our situation. Got a good amount of great players, but our offensive line is beyond terrible. So I feel like when you've got an O-lineman that's just one, I'm getting sacked every play because you suck at your job. You're falling into my lap. You turn around and tell me to humble up or, shut up. I'm coming at you, bro.
That's true. The person that is doing the talking has to be above and beyond. I mean, They have to be playing their position.
They have to be doing their job.
And on and off the field. They have to be above and beyond.
That's a great point. And so the unfortunate thing is, I feel like the person that fits that square, someone like Myles Garrett or Nick Chubb, but because they fit that mold, or that they're also, their character is what prevents them from being that.
Exactly.
So it's a double-edged sword, but so we're. But one other article that I would like to bring up with you, or we actually have two, but really quickly, because I have slowly just been turned off by the NBA, the way it's becoming this circus. I feel like might as well just buy a ticket for the Harlem Globetrotters, save some money, and have a good time. But Michael Jordan's taken some flack because he approached his team and said, "You're paid for 82 games. You're going to play 82 games," because Kawhi Leonard. They had a back-to-back 2-day, prime time. They were on ESPN and then they were on TNT. And the TNT game, he sat out. And Michael Jordan came out and saying, this is the beginning of the season, and we played 82 games plus the postseason. We weren't taking any games off. And I was reading in this article Michael Jordan was playing on average 39 minutes a game, and then when it was postseason, he was playing 43 minutes a game on average to 48. So this guy was playing almost the entire game. So here's somebody that's upset for just sitting, a couple minutes. And you're taking a whole game off when our our technology and health and everything is way more efficient than it's ever been. So why do you think we're getting softer? Do you think we really need these breaks? Or is it conceding that this is all a show? You guys aren't athletes anymore. You're prima donnas. Half of the show is me and my dad lose our minds on how the NBA has become a fashion show walking into the stadium. This is what I wore for the game today. It's but we don't care about how you played. So I'm curious, what do you think of this?
So I haven't seen an NBA game probably in 10 years, if not,
for a reason,
if not
sure,
longer. Right? To me, it's just not. It's not a game anymore. It's show.
Show, yeah.
And I think I think we have a larger problem with our society because I think more and more people are trying to find ways to make money and not work.
It's true. That's true.
How can I get paid and not work? Or
such a great.
How long can I hold off until that big time job falls into my lap?
Right. Yes.
Because I don't want to really look for one, and I certainly don't want to start out as an office gnome.
Right.
I want to be the vice president. And if I can't be that, I guess I just won't do anything.
That's true.
So I think society as a whole, that's a problem. But professional sports is just, for me, they've just all become such prima donnas. And I just don't see a lot of them playing the game for the reason that they got into it to begin with.
I think you nailed it.
Although there are some that get into the game in the very beginning thinking that they're going to be in the NBA or NFL, and so that's what I'm striving for anyway. The majority of us that ever play the sports because we want to play the sport.
Right.
We like the game. We like being out there. We like the competition, whatever the case may be. And that's why I like, especially like baseball, AAA, single A ball, because those guys are still striving to get to the big show. And so they're out there playing the game. And
right.
And they play all the time. And so, when you don't have farm clubs, when you don't have a NBA farm system or NFL farm system, you're getting the cream of the crop, and all of them think that they're all great, and so they all want to come and put on the show. They
right.
want to do the show instead of playing the game. So,
no, you're 100% right.
So I'm like, Michael's right. I mean, that's what you're getting. You're getting again. I go back to, I deliver flowers part-time, right?
Right.
And so if I said, oh, man, I don't feel like delivering the second one because,
I'm tired. I'm sore in my back.
Whatever. I'm getting paid to do that. You guys are getting paid to do this. We as fans are paying good money to come see you play.
Right.
And if you're not playing, and the reason I came was to watch you, or I brought my son to watch you, and you're not playing.
That was a big thing that was a discussion that came out, I think, like 2 years ago, that fans were complaining that LeBron was taking too many games off, that away games, and he was only playing the home games. And, we were in Cleveland. We didn't care. We were like, well, we get to see LeBron. Right. But LeBron, barked back at everybody. Again, I'm not a fan of LeBron, but, he was defending his position of like, my health comes first. I'm not doing it for you people. And it's like, dude, you're a billionaire. You have some of the biggest property and opportunity simply because I wear your jersey, because I watch your show. So for you to not acknowledge why, again, doctors and lawyers make less than you because we're not all as a group going, all right, we're all going to pitch in our $15 because we love this so much. Like, no. You're praised, but know why you're praised, because all of us are behind you. So if the second you turn your back on us, and I would love to know the numbers, because my dad has always taught, when we talk about baseball versus the NBA, the MLB has been terrible at keeping people interested in the sport and keeping it alive. It's very quickly now gaining momentum. It's boring. It's a slow sport.
Why is that?
Because of our generation. Because our attention and everything else.
And you're not taught about the sport.
Right.
Most people, when they go to a baseball game, what are they looking at? Pitcher, batter. That's the only thing they look at. Oh, look, he pitched the ball. Oh, he swung the bat. There's 9 other players out there. What are they doing? Part of the game is part of a chess game. This guy's shifting. This guy's moving. Watch how this guy moves. Oh, in this certain pitch, watch what happens over here. Watch the catcher. He's doing this. I mean, there's so much stuff that is going on in a baseball game that people don't even realize.
Right.
And they don't pay attention to that because ESPN, they show home runs being hit or a pitcher throwing a no-hitter. And so all those things, and those things are most important when it comes to showing sports. And so when we go and watch the game, and a game is 1-0, and we walk away saying, this was a great game. This was the most boring game in the world, other than soccer. Same thing, soccer.
I know.
If you watch the game, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on, but if you just watch the ball, or that's the only thing you're interested in, or you're looking at your phone and you look up every now and then, you're not going to understand the game. And if you don't understand the game, then it can become boring.
Boring, right?
And so, and we're so, Americans are so, I want a high score.
Yeah.
They would like to see, a 80 to 85 baseball game.
Right.
But that takes away from the game. The game is a lot of positioning, a lot of, in that case, a coach can make a decision, hit and run, or shift, or do all kinds of stuff that, can put you at an advantage. And it's just not about the pitcher and not just about the batter and all that sort of stuff. Same thing with basketball. It's not all just about who can dunk.
Right.
I would rather see a great pass or a great defensive play as I would to see a dunk.
No, I 100% agree. And one thing that it's funny, you reminded me of, there's an issue right now in the MLB because players like Justin Verlander, who will for sure be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, is coming out and saying, so players are believing that the MLB altered the ball and that the ball is now something scientifically has been done to it to where it can be it moves faster. And Justin Verlander's argument is
pitching, it moves faster?
It's pitching faster and the balls are being hit harder. Because one of the statistics was we haven't had a ball out of the park or at least close to 500 since people were on steroids, when we had the epidemic of Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds. Like that phase when that was when baseball was great. It was fun because everybody was hitting them.
Right.
But then when we brought everybody back to reality off of steroids, well, now the game's back to where it was back in the day, where it's very low scoring. Sometimes nobody hits the ball because, again, or they do and it doesn't go very far. Well, now, two teams, the Yankees and I don't remember off the top of my head who the other team was, but two MLB baseball teams broke their franchise record for home runs in one season. And for this to happen in the same season, teams barely ever do that, let alone two in the same season. And this same season is the season Justin Verlander, who was in the World Series with the Astros and is doing really great, is like, hey, I'm really old and I'm doing better than I ever did in my life. What's with that? And so, and so here's a pitcher that's, bringing alarm to this. So it's very interesting, and what would cause that other than exactly your point that our attention span isn't, strong enough for this sport. We aren't appreciating the technicalities that make it so great, and instead all we want is the flashy home runs. I want to be able to stand up and cheer. Yay! And I just sat here and quiet too long. And that's what,
And half the time people stand up and cheer, they don't know what the hell they're cheering for.
That's it.
Just because the guy beside me stood up and cheered. Do this sometimes. When you're at a ball game, just stand up and cheer. Yeah! And see how many people stand up. It'll blow your mind. It's like,
so, yeah.
What are we cheering about?
So I want to get your opinion then on something that I'm very passionate about. And towards the beginning of the podcast, we would talk about it a lot. But it seemed to become a bit more of a dead issue. But we would talk about how MLB baseball stadiums are moving towards extending the net, if not completely taking it to the end of the home run poles, because people aren't paying attention and getting hit by baseballs. Now, let's think about what I just talked about with the baseballs. Maybe the MLB feels more provoked, like, hey, we really need to put nets up because we're making these balls a bit more dangerous than they've been in the past.
I don't agree with that.
But the policy that they give everybody is that the reason we want these nets is because we want it to be safe. People aren't paying attention, people are on their phones, and we've had too many people get hit. Well, again, who's getting hit besides a 6-year-old? That's sad. That really stinks. But also, the greatest part about being a 6-year-old at a baseball game for me was getting a baseball. So you're taking that away from other kids.
Exactly.
So I don't know. How do you feel about these?
I don't think it has anything to do with the ball. I think it has to do with people not paying attention. Because you go to any baseball game, even the single A's, and a lot of people go there because it's a social time now,
right?
And or they're on their phones. So I go with my partner and we go with another couple, and we're sitting there, and she's chit-chatting, and I said, you need to pay attention what's going on with the ball being pitched and stuff. So you really need to pay attention. You can have a conversation, but you need to pay attention because at any given time, the ball could be here. And so we were there, and one time a foul ball came close to us, and it was a zoomer. Right. So you just never know. You have to pay attention. And so if you're going to the ball game for a social thing, you're going with another couple, and the wives want to chit chat or whatever. Go sit behind the net. Go sit in the outfield.
Right. Put yourself where you.
But if you're going to watch the game, then it's okay to be on the first base and third base line because you're paying attention anyway, and you're prepared for the ball to come.
Right. So. But I guess I agree with everything you said. The real reason is because not enough people are paying attention, and they're putting themselves in areas of the stadium that make them vulnerable. You could totally remove yourself from that situation. Right. But it wasn't until just the point that we were talking about that I am thinking, like, if you're the MLB, and let's just say low-key you changed out balls because you're trying to keep people excited, right? So balls are being thrown quicker or harder. In that theory, if that is a real thing, there is some liability there to go, more people are being injured at the same time we've changed the ball. Now, we haven't told anybody we've changed the ball, but at the point at which it comes out we've changed the ball, and they can point at this, that's liability. Whether it was the cause or not, it's probably the iPhone, it's probably the girl that shouldn't be there, but this is something that somebody could hold on to for liability, and I'm wondering if that's why they care. You've never cared before, right? This isn't the first time anybody's been hit. In fact, we've had baseball. How many times did it take a coach getting hit by a ball before they were like, all right, put a helmet on?
But hockey did the same thing. If you remember a couple years ago, a lot more people were getting hit with the pucks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so they decided we need to put more netting up. And so I think what's happening is I don't think the ball's changed because people are talking like this is some big conspiracy, like, ooh, and only a few people know it's the secret, and it's not going to be like. I guarantee if the ball changed, people are going to know.
That's true.
The person that's in the factory that's making a difference, they're going to go home at the bar and talk about, hey, guess what we did at the factory today? we stuck an extra piece of gum in there. So that's going to get out. That's going to get out.
It's a fair point.
It's not like the formula for Coke that's locked up in the safe. So, but I think what MLB is doing is they continually try to get the families to come to the ballpark because they know if they get the families to come to the ballpark, they're going to spend more money on concessions. They're going to spend more money on souvenirs, that sort of thing. And so, how do I make it more safe for families to be there? Where the way to do that is let's put more netting up, and everybody feels more comfortable sitting closer to the field where the players are. So
right. No, I think that's a great point.
I don't think it has anything to do with the bats or anything. I think players have just become more proficient. If you think all the years that baseball has been played, the ball can only get thrown certain miles an hour, right? So even if a guy's throwing 102, when you're practicing batting, do you not in the pitching cage, in the batting cage, have 102 mile an hour balls thrown at you so that you can get used to the speed and stuff? Sure. So technology, when it comes to the batting part of it, has increased such that, again, the only thing you can only throw 102 at the max.
Right.
Nobody has a rubber arm that can throw 300 miles an hour. It's 102 max. Now you can mix it up and throw different stuff at me, which is why we're still only batting 300. Instead of more than that, but
that's a good point too.
And the guys who want to come in and throw these fast, hard pitches, these 102 miles an hour, the guys that are swinging, the guys that are swinging the bats can hit these damn things and they're gone. The faster it comes in, the faster it goes out.
Right,
and that's just the way that it is. So I don't think it has anything to do with the ball. I think batters have become more proficient. I think with technology the way we have it, you have people that are analyzing swings, that are analyzing your stance, they have all the stats. I know exactly what kind of pitches you pitch in every circumstance. So when I get up the bat, I'm aware of what's happening. So it's just. No,
I think that's perfect. That's a great.
But there's also those people out there that want to bring up, these hidden agendas. Oh, they changed the ball. they put three less stitches in it. The mound has rubber tires now instead of dirt. All kinds of stuff, just because either your team's losing.
That's what it is.
Or whatever.
Again, and no matter what, we're all playing with the same ball, so it's the same.
We're all
game.
playing with the same ball. We're all playing with the same bat because
except for Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, and they have the rules and regulations of what kind of wood it has to be made out of, how big it has to be, what can be in it. Same thing with the balls. So none of that stuff changes.
Right.
So.
No, you're right. That's a great point.
What I'm surprised is that they haven't, moved the newer stadiums, moved the fence back another 50 feet.
That's true too. Well, but then again, it comes back to we don't
same-
get as many home runs.
It's the same reason why the basketball hoop is still at 10 whatever instead of raising it to 15, because now if it's raised at 15, who the hell is going to dunk it?
You're right.
And then that takes away most of the entertainment, and who's going to watch it?
Nobody. Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, so last sports thing, only because I'd be remiss not to give you the softball to just laugh at our face. So before this, I was ready, as I was saying, to call this the Buckeye Dome. I was bringing Paul Brown into the Ohio State home. I was ready to just be like, are you excited that we're ranked number 1? We're untouchable. We're one of the greatest teams to watch right now. And at 9 o'clock this morning, I got a notification that Chase Young, one of our best players on our team, is not going to be able to play with us for our Maryland game Saturday. But also, he may be out for the rest of the season because he took money from an agent. So,
Well, Chase Young could set out. The whole defensive team could set out against Maryland, and it's still not going to win.
oh, is that how, right?
No, not Ohio State's not going to win.
Maryland.
Here, my question is, so they're 8-0.
Yes.
How many of those games do they have to forfeit?
Probably none, of course.
Why?
Because
he just didn't take money this last week.
That's a great point.
I mean, so he's ineligible. You're playing with an ineligible player. You should forfeit every game that he played.
Ooh. Hey, I'm not going to weigh in on that because all
saying.
I know is I can't give an answer without a bias, so I'm just going to put my tail between my legs and bow.
And for those people out there, I'm a huge Ohio State fan.
He hates Ohio State, guys.
Not. It just the whole ranking thing just.
It's phony. It is.
Well, because let's take Ohio State, and I say this every year. Who have they played? Now they played Wisconsin, but they played Wisconsin after they lost 2 games in a row.
Right.
So should they even be in the top 25? Probably not. Maryland started out the year. Ooh, they're killing people, right? The first 2 games, and then I don't know what happened to their team. I think they went to Aruba for the rest of the year or something. But so Ohio State they have to play Penn State,
right,
and then play Michigan.
Right.
Those
2 will be big games. Even Michigan's not even
maybe because in the years past, so they come into the game with Penn State. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. And again, who has Penn State played?
Really,
nobody.
Yeah, nobody.
And so why
they're ranked off a reputation?
My thing is, if you and I know you don't care what my respect is, but if you want my respect, Ohio State, play Georgia, play LSU, play Texas, play somebody in your first 2 games.
So it is funny that you bring up Georgia. Did you see literally just 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, Georgia and Ohio State decided they planned to have 2 games against each other, but it's in 2025.
Right. Well, that's because the schedules are so far out. But that's my point.
And that's 2 games. And
so Ohio State at the beginning of the year plays. I think they played Troy High School and Florida Atlantic, and then they play somebody from Cincinnati, which wasn't a bad choice this year. But in years past, they played Ohio University.
We played Miami a lot. Ohio destroy us.
It's like, come on.
No, I agree.
And so now you're building up your stats, and you're building up this stuff, but you really haven't played anybody. You haven't.
Right.
And again, I know you don't care if you have my respect or not, but play somebody in the beginning of the year. Who was it? Georgia and somebody played either week 1 or week 2. And Georgia was ranked 4, and the other team was ranked 6 or 7 or something like that. And so to me, you come out of the gates and you're blowing people away. Oh, okay. Now, okay, I'll put you on my.
They played Auburn.
Yes,
and that's a huge game.
Yeah, and I'll put you on my radar if you come out playing somebody in the very beginning out of your conference that means something.
Right, and I think the biggest issue is right now, the teams that have the most respect are SEC teams, and those are tough for us to get. Again, we're putting games way down the line. So I agree with you. I think that has been an appropriate, gripe against our Ohio State scheduling in the past. But I do feel like, this year, Northwestern was a big game. Nebraska, Indiana. Again, these are teams that don't meet Auburn level.
Big game based on what?
These are great teams. Nebraska, Indiana. They're
in years past.
Well, even this year, I guess you're right. And we destroyed these teams, right? Like, it wasn't like it was a close game. But then that should also go to show that we're not just mildly competing with respectable teams, but we're blowing them out of the water.
See, that's the difference between you and I don't think they're respectable teams.
And
if you put those three teams in any other division, where are they going to stand? They're not going to be at the top. They're going to not be at the top of the pack. That's what I'm talking about. So if they played people who consistently were at the top of their division, Oregon, if they played Oregon at the beginning of the year, or if they played, even if they played Boise State, I don't care. Just play somebody that has something to bring to the table instead. And I understand, the logic was, well, we want to play an in-state school because we want to give them money.
What does that mean?
That's BS.
Yeah, I agree.
It's you want to pad your numbers at the beginning of the season so you can get up in the top 7 and stay there throughout the year while everybody's knocking each other off because one's playing a 2 this weekend, or 2's playing a 5 or whatever, and so they're knocking each other off, and you just can steadily grow into the thing because you're not playing anybody.
So I think
then when you get down to the end of the year, so here's the other thing. I would really like to root for them. Living in Ohio for 40 years, but you get down to the end of the year, they go to the playoffs. Most of the time, they're playing one of these teams that have played a tough schedule, and they get beat.
Right?
Why? Because they haven't had the competition that they need to have to play on that level.
And I think that's a great point. And something we see as a problem would be, the Big Ten, growing up, my dad, this is the greatest division. These are just great football teams. But that really isn't the case anymore. And I think what may have happened was Ohio State, being the pinnacle of the Big Ten, has really just sucked up all the talent of the Big Ten to where if you're going to go to the Big Ten, you're going to go to Ohio State. And now if you don't go to Ohio State, you're going to go to somewhere else. So now Ohio State's pool that they have to play with, they've destroyed them all already, but before even the competition.
Right.
And so I think the biggest problem is the Big Ten around us isn't what they used to be because we've really sucked up all the talent.
Right.
So I think that's a great point. But I wanted to toss you the softball of, there goes our best player, he's out, and we're going reality will crack in.
Well, like I said, I think they ought to forfeit all of their games because it was an illegal player playing in all those games.
Now, taking it a step further, though, we did see that the NCAA...
And they shouldn't be eligible for any bowl games.
Yeah, they just...
Or playoffs for the next 10 years.
10 years. And just punitive.
I think they should get rid of the whole program together. Shut down the
last
stadium.
Year's circus.
Shut down the stadium. Actually make it a homeless place. For all those people that are sleeping in the streets of Las Vegas, bring them to Ohio State Stadium. Let them live in the shoe. Old lady in the shoe.
Old lady in the shoe. But we have seen that the NCAA is now, they're so kindly going to allow these players to make money on their own liking. Did you see that? So now these players are going to, again, this is them just giving them, like you said, the rich white people in society, giving them the little bit of pennies to keep them satisfactory because they knew this was a battle they're losing. But what's interesting is in the same year that the NCAA is willing to allow these players to start making money off of their liking, we have a player that is doing it illegal, still breaking the rules. And now, granted, this is probably before the NCAA made its official announcement and everything, but still, it's like how terrible it looks. At the same time, you are going to start to be allowed to do this. Mm-hmm. You're in trouble for doing it.
And you know what? I don't have any problem paying the athletes.
I agree.
If they pay for their school. They pay for the school, they pay for their housing, they pay for the food, they pay for their transportation, they pay for everything that's given to them. I don't have a problem paying them.
See, and the only thing that's difficult there is, as somebody who played football, I would always get upset, in high school we were fighting with the band kids for Friday Night Football money, right? Like, we needed the money because when we were going to an away game, we weren't carting your asses with us. It was just us were going this time, gang. And so it was always so irritating that, like, there was this debate of, well, we have more people than you, so we have more parents in the stands. It's like, well, there's also people that have no kids in this, and they sure as hell aren't coming for the 2 minutes in between quarters. They're coming for the show. So I
actually just go for the pretzels.
Yeah, I'm with you on there, right? Exactly. But in light of that, it's like I am of the camp where these guys are making them, like Ohio State. All the money this university has is from alumni throwing it at this team. Or us as fans. Somebody who went to a different school in Ohio still roots for this as my team, and I still throw my money at their logo, their clothing, and their games. So I also want to go, yes, you guys built a program. That's what's attracting my money. But that isn't it. It's this guy, right? It's people like Chase Young that make the Sunday or Saturdays fun. And they're the value. So I also see, like, if the money is there to pay for your education, just like LeBron, you have $1 billion house because the money is there. And as long as I'd rather go to this kid than some guy who's sitting at the top of the pyramid, like sitting back going, well, this is my program. It's like, it's nobody, it's these kids.
Right, but here's the thing. Again, if I pay you to play football,
right,
but you have to pay for your education, you have to pay for all the things that are given to you.
Like life.
Because I'm not a football player. I go to school. I have to pay for my school.
Right.
I have to pay for everything. So where's the difference? And all these guys that are complaining that, well, they're using, and I'm not getting, you're getting a $500,000 education.
Right.
That will take you a hell of a lot farther than your 4 years in the NFL.
But they don't look at it that way.
Well, and that's what that's what somebody should be telling them that they need to be looking at is, even if you graduate college and make it to the pros, which is a slim,
right?
Even if you do that, your life there is 4 years,
right?
Maybe. So after 4 years, then what are you going to do? Your education is going to take you a whole lot further into your 60s than. I played in the NFL for 4 years because you can take that to the bar and get free drinks for maybe 5 years, and after that, people are getting tired of listening to your story.
Yeah.
I've heard it say, or how many cars can you sell in your hometown on the fact that you were in the NFL for 4 years? I mean, it's just so if again, pay them. I don't have a problem paying them,
right?
But then they have to pay for everything that they're getting.
See, the only
that will change that story 100%, because once they find out how much it really costs to house them, to feed them, to give them all the medical treatment that they got, to give them all the technical stuff that's going on, transportation to get to where they need to be, all that sort of stuff, yeah, okay, I guess I'm okay with not being paid, because I know I'm going to get paid. If I'm good enough, I'm going to get paid when I get to the NFL, because I'm in a strong program. I'm in a program that's getting national attention. I'm getting attention from scouts and everybody like that. That's where the real money's coming in, because that's what's going to then get me to the next level.
And that's a great point. The only thing is, I see a university, if they were posed with the option of pay them but don't give them a scholarship, or pay them and still give them a scholarship, I still want to make an argument that they would pick the route where they pay them and still give scholarships, only because that's the only thing. I guess you could just pay them more. But I was going to say that's the only thing that sets them apart from other universities. Again, you want to come to Ohio State because while we'll give you a great career in football, we also have this great university that will give you a great education. And now you're selling the university.
So wait a minute. So how many football players go to Ohio State and really is worried about their education?
So that's what I was just about to say.
They go to Ohio State. They go to Alabama. They go to Notre Dame. And they play football. They go there specifically to play football because of the reputation of the football program.
Right.
They're not going to Ohio State to play if they're recruited to go to Ohio State. They're not going to Ohio State to play football. Oh, and I'm going to be a chemical engineer.
And that's why I think the university, but I think that's why the university needs to be able to give them a scholarship, right? Because what is it that's you're a prospect, and I want you to come to Ohio State over Alabama. What do I have besides, well, this is how good our football team is, this is how good our school is, or this is how much money I can give you for your scholarship and pay.
So, but as an individual, I'm looking at if I'm recruited to Ohio State and Alabama, I'm a good player.
Right.
So I'm probably going to have a great chance to get to the NFL. How am I going to get there? So what position am I? Let's say I'm a wide receiver.
Perfect.
Okay. So if I look at Ohio State's scheme, their offensive scheme, how much do they throw versus the quarterback running versus Alabama versus LSU, whoever. So if I'm a wide receiver, I'm going to go to a school that their offensive scheme is pass at least 50% of the time.
Right.
Because how else can I show my skill if I'm not getting the ball thrown to me? Okay, so that's the very first thing I'm looking at. I'm not looking at their education program. I'm not looking at the money. I'm looking at where's my opportunity to show my skill because I'm going to the next level.
Right, okay.
Okay, so now if I'm being recruited by Bowling Green in Miami of Ohio, I'm not that great of a ball player if I'm getting recruited, because that's pretty much the second level.
Right.
But if I have an opportunity to go to Ohio State, then I'm looking at what's the educational opportunities. Because even if I go to Miami or Bowling Green, my chances of being seen are very slim.
Right.
So I'm probably not going to be able to get to the NFL. But I want to go to a school that's going to have a good program in whatever education I'm looking for after I get out of. And football is just my way to get a free education.
That's
and then
true,
and then after that, I'm gone. So, those are the things as a player I'm looking at. And as the school administrators, they should be looking at, how can we continue to generate money into these programs and for them to pay for themselves? Because if they're not paying for themselves, where's the money coming from? The money's coming from the other students. And if it's coming from the other students, that means it's being pulled from other programs, which is benefiting the other students who are not athletes.
Right.
So this athletic team has to be self-sustaining to a point where it maybe can also support some of the other sports that we offer, pulling those people in. That now brings in alumni money after they get out. And so how can we continue to do that? And I think that's what the school administrators have to look at is how can we continue to maintain the level of what we have and continue to draw what we need to draw in. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point. I really appreciate that response because it's a great point. Last article I have for you, just because I thought it'd be funny. So this man serving a life sentence says it ended once he died and was revived in a medical emergency. So in Des Moines, Iowa, a man was convicted of murder in the first degree and was rushed to the Iowa State Penitentiary to a hospital in 2015 where his heart was restarted 5 times. Mm-hmm. So, what do you feel about this claim?
Was he pronounced dead?
Well, he claims that his life sentence was fulfilled by a short-lived death. Did
the hospital declare him dead?
Signed a do not resuscitate agreement years earlier, and unfortunately, I don't think I have that, like how long he was dead. So
doesn't matter how long you're dead.
Was he pronounced dead?
If he was pronounced dead, and then for some miracle they revived him, I agree.
Right, I think
his life sentence is done because he died. Especially,
my argument as a lawyer would be, especially when the state wants to get cute and throw multiple life sentences at people, like, yeah, you're gonna die 3 times. Well, now you want to play these little cute games, but the only thing that sucks is this would really set a precedent. You've got people doing K2 and synthetic drugs in prison because they're sneaking it in and stuff. If I was, I'm here in a life sentence. 2, I'm experimenting with all the, it's falling out the walls. I'd be like, give me some heroin. I'm going to just sit here, die for a second. They'll Narcan me.
You hope.
But I feel like that's you hope. But also, it's like, that's a dangerous precedent to set, that people will try to toe that line.
So if I agree that if he had a life sentence and he was pronounced dead, then yes, he should go on for the rest of his life. Now, here's the only problem, because didn't you say in the article that he had a DNR?
Right, he did say a do not resuscitate agreement.
Go back to the headline. It says, in medical emergency, so he was rushed to the hospital, and on the way to the hospital is when they...
no, he did get to the hospital.
Okay, so the DNR, if you have a DNR, when the medics show up at your house, they still have to perform CPR on you.
Okay.
They have to do that.
And why would you do that?
Because why would I do what?
Why would you sign a DNR?
Well, you sign a DNR because if you're old and you're done.
Right. Don't try breaking my ribs.
Don't bring me back when I know that I'm going to live in a vegetative state, or I'm not going to be. My quality of life is gone. So it's just like I don't want a DNR. So but the ER people on the EMTs have to perform CPR until they get you to the hospital, because they cannot declare somebody dead. Only a doctor can do that.
And so, because he made it to a hospital,
right? That's why I asked you. Did it happen if it happened in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, they couldn't declare him dead anyway, so that wouldn't work. But once he got to the hospital and he was on the table and he was dead, and they said, yeah, he's dead. But then they brought him back. Then I agree with him that, yeah, he died. But then I would sue him because I had a DNR.
And would you do resuscitation?
And you brought me back.
That's a great point, too. Again, that's something a lawyer could latch on to.
So I'm out of jail, and I'm suing you, and so I have big money.
Man, murdering Bill next door paid off in the long run. What? But what's funny is, that's the argument, is if I were to die and I'm officially dead and you brought me back in my prison sentence, when we have an agreement that I get to escape prison, well, then I escape prison. Wow, how fun. I didn't even know what a DNR was. Like, I just kind of assumed, I could pick up what do not resuscitate means, but I never really, I'm like, why would you want that?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that because they realize that so, for example, if I had a DNR, I'm a healthy guy, but if I said I'm signing a DNR, again, you as an EMT, when you come to the house and I'm non-responsive, you have to perform CPR.
Okay.
Just because that's part of what you can't walk into the place and say, yeah, he's dead. You can't declare somebody dead. Oh. You have to go through all the procedures until you get me to the hospital, and the doctor can say,
"Ugh, that's got to be a rough part of the job." Is like you have to. I mean, there's got to be instances.
You do that anyway. I mean, you do CPR and you start the oxygen, and you're calling into the hospital saying, we have a guy that's not responsive. Here's what we're doing. I mean, you go through all the procedures, because if you don't, then you end up getting sued. So you go through all the procedures until you get him to the hospital. They rush him into the room or whatever, and the doc comes in and says, yeah, pronounce him dead. At the time that they pronounce him dead at the hospital. Yes. So let's say, for example, that you're in your home and you pass away. Then they usually send over to coroner, who's a doctor, and he'll come in and say, yeah, okay, he passed away in his sleep or whatever. And so that's there's a difference there.
Okay, and so that, I guess, so the difference is you show up on a dead body. That's where I was kind of like, what happens when it's just that this person is dead? Like, either they're cold, they're stiff. Like, I don't know how far it has to go to, like, they're clearly dead, but at some point, do they have to still do the charade of, like, keep them alive, and it's just a stiff...
I don't know how much of that they have to do, but they cannot declare him dead.
Okay.
So they would call somebody in, And usually the coroner or somebody who works in the coroner's office, a physician would come in and say, yeah, that person is dead.
And so that's where I made my like knee jerk reaction of like if part of my job was whenever there's people that are all possibly fading in or out, like I get that, but if there's somebody who's just like rigor mortis just broken, and I'm sitting there like he's gonna come back, and I'm sitting there like with the thing on his chest, like
but you don't know that unless they
doesn't work
unless you go into the house and the house has been closed up for like 3 days. If you show up at a house, you're named 10, you show up at a house, and the person's non-responsive, you go through what you go through. And
It's
even
tough.
you may even paddle them or whatever, but and you get them to the hospital, and
wow.
most of what the EMTs do is try to get you to a stable position if they can.
Okay.
So sometimes you'll see an ambulance pull up in front of somebody's house and be there for half an hour because they have you inside. They're trying to get you stable. Okay. Either oxygen or they've done CPR and they're trying to get things going. But if they know that's a critical situation and you're not responsive, even though all the things that they're doing are not responsive, they're taking you immediately to the hospital.
Right.
Because then the hospital can either pronounce you dead or get you into the ER or do whatever they need to do. But yeah.
Oh wow. All right. Well, so this guy, let him free and give him a paycheck too.
That's what I say.
I'm with you 10 times over.
Because he died and he served his life sentence.
Heck yeah.
Because his life's over with, and I'm suing the hospital for doing the DNR when they weren't supposed to. So I'm gonna go live on an island someplace and have a couple $1,000,000.
So I don't know if we'll have time for this, but I do have two things to ponder real quick for you. And I'll be able. Oh wow, we've been talking a while. I'm just
Imagine
curious,
that.
right? Because it's too fun talking to you, Paul. But these are questions that I've asked people in the past that everybody gives me a variety of different answers, and it's fun to see. And I'd love to know where you came out. One of them is if you ever found yourself in a situation where you're at gunpoint. Like somebody's robbing your home, and I know these are two very different situations, but if you were in your home and also if like you were a clerk at a store, so one, you have no investment in the cash register, but the other one is like you're safe at home and you're also legally allowed to just blow someone's head off. But I'm seriously curious. I know, all right, make my day laws and everything, but I want to know when you are in that situation when there's a barrel pointed at you, do you comply? Are you going to be the hero? Are you going to try to fight back? Are you going to...
It depends. Why do you have the gun pointed at me? You want my stuff?
Sure, yes.
Take it.
Take it. Okay. That's what my answer is.
Because I can always get more stuff.
Right.
But do you have your gun on me because I was sleeping with your wife?
Right. And in that case, you have to defend yourself. You've got a great point.
I mean, there's a difference between why the gun's being pointed at me.
Yeah, I like that.
So if I'm in a bank and they come in
That's
and
a question.
rob,
Yeah.
I'm complying. First off, it's not my money.
Right. I don't care.
Take it. You want my wallet?
Here's a bag.
Yeah. Want me to help you load it? You want my wallet? That's fine. You want my watch? Take it. It's because that stuff is not. It can be replaced.
Right.
I did have a situation once. And this would be hard for you to believe, but so when I was in the military, I was in Texas. I was in Wichita Falls, and I was coming home one night, kind of inebriated, and a guy came up and said, "Give me your stuff." So what I did is I immediately fell on the ground and acted like I was having a heart attack.
No way!
And the guy ran away.
No way!
Yeah,
that is and it worked. It worked flawlessly.
Yeah, well, because
and you were in the military.
What's he going to do?
Try to resuscitate you. How old were you?
I was 20.
Oh, that is the greatest story ever.
Yeah, I wasn't in my uniform or anything. I was in civvies.
Smart.
So he didn't know I was in the military. So yeah, it's just like...
It probably would have ended worse had you been in your uniform, correct?
No, he probably wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have messed with you to begin with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that and I was like, wow, I can't believe I pulled that off.
That's incredible.
That's pretty cool.
I really like that. So one other...
So when I grew up in a really, really poor neighborhood. And I was the smallest kid, even almost all the way through high school, even when I was a senior, and redhead, and poor. So I get beat up a lot. And so you learn to defend yourself, and you learn situations, and you learn what they call street smarts. If I'm walking into a situation I need to immediately assess what the situation is. Is it dangerous? Can I get through this? Am I just going to get my ass beat and move on or whatever? And so you look at all those scenarios, and then you decide your course of action.
Right. Okay.
So, and it has helped as you become older because really aware of surrounding circumstances. And I for some reason, it's like spidey senses. You just know when you get into a situation, it's like this doesn't feel right. So I need to get out of it or change something or go a different direction or cross the street or whatever the case may be. So it has really helped me as an adult to assess those situations and be aware and get out of some stuff. And the other thing that I learned too is when you pass somebody on the street, so many people have their heads down.
Yeah.
If you look at the person that you're passing by and just nod or say something or hey, how you doing, and you get that eye contact, immediately that does something. It makes a personal connection, and people that are going to do you harm don't necessarily want to have a personal connection. They don't want you to see their face. They don't want you to be connected in any way, and so that's why you see a lot of people get picked on. They're not looking, or they're hesitant, or they have their backs turned, or whatever the case may be. So if you're aware of what's going on, right, a lot of times you get yourself out of a lot of those situations. So
wow, that's true too, and it's very situational.
But the other thing too is I get beat up a lot, and you realize that okay, it's a physical thing. The black eye will go away, But you also learn when to antagonize somebody and when not to.
Yes.
So when somebody has a gun pointing at your face, and you want to, and you're Mr. Bravado, you're going to get shot.
Right.
Because the guy's not going to mess with you. He's not there. And people that want to rob, they just want your stuff. They don't really want to hurt you. They just want your stuff. And the more you resist, the more you're going to,
risk getting hurt.
Yes. So just give me your stuff. Here, take it.
100%
I don't care. You want my car? There you go. Here's my keys.
So last one I got for you. It's a thought, just like a thought exercise that I came up with because I just think it'd be. And you being having a professional background as being
let's
a
go back.
professor.
Let's go back to the shooting thing.
Yes.
Now, if you're sneaking in my window,
yeah,
and I'm awake, you might get a baseball bat.
And that's different, though, right? Like
that's different than you standing there with a gun in my face.
Right.
Okay. If you're sneaking in my window or sneaking around my house, you might get injured.
And again, I'm going to go back to the make my day laws. You just being in my house, I'm just going to shoot you to begin with, right? Like even if I don't have a gun, you're being attacked with whatever I got at my disposal.
Exactly. Might be the spaghetti I had that night for dinner. You never know.
But what happens when he comes through the window and he's got his pistol in his hand?
Well, I'm going to hit him before he has a chance to shoot me.
That's fair.
I'm taking him out.
Again, pretending like...
you see my drives.
I was just about to say.
I'll send him down the fairway.
That's perfect. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I make my day, baby. Mm-hmm. So, last thing I got for you, as somebody who has a professional background as being a teacher or a professor, I am curious of what you would think of this. So, again, doing debate in high school and stuff, one of the topics that I was always had affection for was merit pay. And I think it was because I went to a public school where you had some real great hitters, some real great teachers that would influence your life, and just some real schmucks, just jokes of existence. And it wasn't until I went off to college that I worked for an excavation company, and this is just a classic excavator guy, and carpenter, and he's just like, have you noticed yet that have you gotten to the age yet where you've realized that your teachers aren't anything special and they're just regular people like you or I? And it was that period of college where I was like, yeah, I'm starting to recognize. And so in high school, again, I always had this gripe of like, there were some real lazy. I mean, when I was in 8th grade, I walked in on our science teacher. We were in the old high school building in a middle school. She had the chemistry vents on, and she was up in the ceiling smoking a cigarette. And I'll never forget and she's like, get out of here, you can't. And she was just such a trash human. And again, then you have other teachers that will forever follow me to the end of my life.
Right.
And so in light of that, where I have been a proponent of, or, I've been supportive of merit pay, where it's like, yeah, I think this person who's great at their job get paid more. But the biggest problem with that debate has always been, how do you measure that? How do you properly, and again, keeping that part out of the conversation, because I think that is, or maybe it is a necessary part of this conversation. But I want to ask you, what do you think would happen if we privatized or created a system, an academic system, where teachers were more like independent contractors, especially in a world where universities can easily be online now. So I want to be able to be taught by this person, this person, this person, and this person, and I can cherry pick all these people, because look at Ohio State, right? Here's a university making BOCO bucks. Now, granted, these professors are making good money too, but they sure as hell aren't making much as this nice little title, Ohio State. And so I want to know, could we have an increase? One, people don't want to be teachers because they don't get paid enough. It's not an honorable position, right? So some of the greater thinkers and more influential people of our society don't even choose to go into teaching. Right. So this, I think, could provoke these great influencers to maybe try a route in education, but then also it puts the power back in the teacher's hands of like, you're getting paid your worth. You want to be great at your job, and you'll go above and beyond to make yourself that more valuable.
How do you measure though?
Right.
The greatness of a teacher. Based on what? Based on that you like them.
Yeah, essentially, it would. The unfortunate thing is, it does seem like there would have to be this. There will always be this arbitrariness of like, how do I know this professor was any good? Especially when you sure, you may have had this great professor, but you also coupled him with these other weird people that don't mean anything.
Right.
So,
but if you're looking at 4 different professors, you like this one's okay, this one's okay, and I hate this one. Why do you hate this one? Because they're more strict, because they're making you do more work, because they whatever, and you like this person because they don't make you do as much work, and they call your name, and they joke with you, and they talk sports and whatever. I mean, so how do you measure them? And I think our society has tried to do that with standardized testing.
Right.
So you're a good teacher if your students are passing the standardized test. If you have 95% of your students passing a standardized test, you must be a good teacher. Well, you're able to teach them what's on the test, right. But does that make you a good teacher? And what makes a good teacher?
And that's what I was going to say too. That teacher that you go, you're a again, I think you've seen it. In a classroom, you have different people. You have somebody that's there doing their work, trying to, better themselves. You also have that person that it's a chore. I'm just going through the motions. Right. And so I agree with you, but the only problem is making the comment of this teacher is looked at as not as good or disliked because, I think they can be disliked because they're more difficult.
Well, but take the 2 scenarios that you have. You have the student who really wants to be there. They're obviously a good student.
Right.
They've gotten A's and things all the way through high school. Let's talk college now. And then you have this individual who just barely skated by, and he has maybe a C average. He's gotten into college, and now he's in your class. If you teach to this level, this person's going to hate you.
Right.
If you teach to this level, this person's going to hate you. If you teach in the middle, they're both going to hate you. Because you're not giving this person what they need. You're not giving this person what they need. So if you're trying to measure from that standpoint from students who's a good teacher, you can't, because that's a subjective.
It's too subjective
from them. And then you go to a standardized test, and again, does that make you a good teacher? No, that makes you I can instruct you on how to take the test.
Right.
But have I taught you anything? Not necessarily.
Right.
I learned from when I was being a professor in business classes that we had a book. We did some of the book, but most of it was what's going to happen in the real world, because the book doesn't teach you what's going to happen in the real world. So as much of the real world that I can bring into the classroom, then I feel like I'm preparing you for the outside world and the work world.
Right.
And that makes me a good teacher because I'm teaching you where to get resources and how to get to the next level. And to me, that's what education is all about. It's not how many facts and how many figures and all that sort of stuff can you jam into my brain, but can I prepare you for the next level?
Right.
Is it from first grade to second grade? And did I prepare you for second grade? Is it from the eighth grade to ninth grade? Is it from being a senior to going to college? So I have to prepare you to get to the next level. That's what makes a good teacher, in my mind.
I agree with you. And so my question, I guess a problem that I'm seeing is that, again, this doesn't seem like, it's definitely an honorable position, but it doesn't seem socially like we're compelled to go that route. And so too many people that could be great teachers just don't end up going down that road.
Well, here's the other problem that you have. Kids aren't respectful anymore.
I 100% agree with you there.
So even if I'm the greatest teacher in the world, unless I get to handpick my students, which you don't,
That's a fair point too.
You get what's stuck with you, and half of them don't respect what you're doing. Well, so who am I teaching to then? I have to take my time and take care of the problem students, and the good students then don't get what they need to get to the next level. So
wow, no, that's a great
now
point too.
On a college level, it's totally different because you come to my classroom. First off, you're paying for it.
Right. So I'm operating in a world where this is the college level. If you would pick your professors, but I think you sank that ship for me in that. How do I know this professor's worth anything? These professors' worth is based off of their resume. I'm at this university. I've done journals for this university. So when you take the university out of it, well, how do I get to determine this professor's value?
You don't until you take the class. Now,
right.
what should be available to you is within the first couple of weeks, you should have the opportunity to drop the class based on personality problem.
I agree. This is either
because I may not be the buddy that you're looking for in the way of a professor. I may be coming, I'm cold, and I'm going to teach the class, and here's what I'm going to do, and there's just straightforward, and you're not used to that. You want more of somebody who is more personable, that tells stories, that's more into it. That's how you learn. So if I'm on a college job and I'm paying for it, then I should be able to say, not quite what I want. Yeah, so give me my money back.
I 100% agree.
Let me take another class.
Instead
of trying to get through this class, and then I don't
destroying your GPA with it.
Yeah, and I don't do very well because of the teaching method, and because college professors are not like high school and elementary school teachers who try to
fit everybody.
A college professor will come in and teach the way that he knows how to teach and the way that he's done in the past.
And their opinions are there too, right?
And if you don't like it, too bad. You can drop
you fall
the class.
By the wayside.
Yeah, or you can drop the class. I don't care. This is the way I'm teaching.
No, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I had an immigration class that was all about this man's politics. I mean, again, that's not a problem for me. I took this class because I wanted to learn the immigration law of what's going on in this world because I'm ignorant to it, and this is a pretty hot topic right now. But I got nothing out of it. We didn't talk about the cases ever, and all we did was talk about this man's political agenda. And again, I agree with you in that we can sit back and go, well, you didn't like it because it didn't fit your ideology, or you didn't like it because you don't like this style, or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm somebody who is in law school, is about to graduate, and has done fine. So at some point, that should give me some credence to go, no, in this one situation, you're terrible.
You're paying for it.
Yeah.
You know, if I go into a restaurant and I don't like the dinner, do I pay for it? No, I send it back. Right?
That's a
if I drive the car off the lot and for some reason I go around the block and it's just this just isn't working, I take it back. So the same thing, you're paying for this. You're a consumer. You're paying for this service. If you're not getting the service that you think you should get a refund for it.
I agree with you.
So when I had my master's, the other thing I don't like about academia is all they know is academia. Yes. They don't know the real world. And here, an example of that is I had went for my master's degree and I was taking an accounting class, and the guy taught out of the book. well, the book was so antiquated that we don't do those things anymore in accounting. We haven't done those things in the last 10 years.
Oh, jeez.
But they're still teaching out of the book, and the book still says this is the way that is done. And there was many classes that said, we don't do this anymore. Why are we learning this? Well, because
the book.
It's the book, and I have to teach you the book. Do you really?
Wow. What a shame.
So, yeah.
Well, so yeah, I guess the thought exercise I'm trying to work out, it's like, again, it's still in its juvenile stages. I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can take the power away from universities, some random title that congregates intellectual thinkers, and put the power back in the thinkers.
You know how you do that?
How's that?
Online.
That's what. So, okay, considering
because then there's no face-to-face. It could be Joe Schmo. It could be the homeless guy in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That's running the online thing, or it could be a Nobel Prize winner that's running the website. How do you know? Because you're doing the work, and you're getting out of it what you need out of it, and that's.
No, I think you have a great point. I'm taking the fundamentals of the bar course this semester, and it's online. I don't know my professor, and I love it in that I get to get at it. It's 4 to 5 hours every week, and I can chip away at it at my own time. It's due Sunday. We gave it to you Saturday, so you've got 8 days. So here it is, and it's great because I'll have an hour here, have an hour there, and it's not this personal I don't like this professor. Because
right.
We're all getting the same thing. It's boiled down to the bones.
It becomes black and white.
Yes.
Because if I'm on the other end of it and you're submitting an answer, here's my answer back to you, and it's not based on I know what your I saw you wearing an Ohio State shirt in my class today, and I hate Ohio State, so immediately you're getting an F.
Right.
And I'm going to find those things in your writing that I don't like. And that's how I can justify it.
And
this way, I don't know you. I see. It's based on purely on what you have presented, and then I can evaluate that. And
we even see
take it with that.
We see it go the other way too in universities. We have kids in our school that go, I noticed you made this comment or this, that, and the other thing, and because of my poor performance, I did bad because I did bad. But because you made this comment, or I feel like you don't like these types of people, now I'm putting on the professor some sort of bias that was never there because I was able to fish for it.
Exactly.
And that's way more prevalent. We see in that. It feels like everybody at our school has something I was cheated because everybody's got it.
Exactly. But if you do everything online, you never see anybody or anything.
That's a great point.
And I think it's where it's kind of heading. Also, I mean, there's more and more. Here's the other thing. Even kids in elementary schools. I don't really want to send my child to the school because one, he's getting bullied a lot. 2, the classes are being disruptive. So is he really learning anything? Would it be better for me to set aside a place at home or somebody else's home and have 3 or 4 kids? Get there, do everything online that they need to do. I guarantee you that the grade scores would be a lot higher, and they would be more readily available for things in the future.
You know what I heard a Chinese family did? Their kids were brilliant, and it was like a collection of Chinese people that moved to America, and the families all lived similarly located amongst each other, to where all the students or all the kids would be taught by another group of parents. So the parents weren't teaching their own kid, but then also the kids had to respect them because that's one, their friend's parent, right. But also it's technically an arm of their parent. If you disrupt, if you talk back or anything, it's going to get back to your parents. So, right. Just the way it all played off of each other, it seemed like that seems like a really great system.
See, the problem with what my suggestion is, then you have people come back and say, well, there's a lot of poor kids out there that can't afford a computer or...
Yes. Public schools are giving away computers anymore.
Yes, they can.
Right.
There's ways to work that stuff out.
You know what we could do is we could give a laptop to everybody as they file into the horseshoe when we move everybody from Las Vegas.
Well, I don't know that I would do that. I'll make sure that they have a tent and a sleeping bag.
But no, this way they could get education. And if you want, you could like prop it over your head. Like,
do I want them to have an education though?
Yeah, dang it.
Or do I want them to remain homeless?
Yeah, that's true.
See, because if all those people are working and they're educated, they may be coming after my money. So
Exactly. Preserve your scholarships and your jobs.
that's right.
I agree.
That's right.
Well, honestly, this was a great long conversation, and we barely even scratched the surface of some really great topics. So, Paul,
Agreed.
Thank you so much for coming on here,
Thanks
guys.
for having me, man.
Anytime, seriously. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you did, if we made you chuckle, or if you had a good time, please give us a share. Go ahead and like us. Find us on Facebook and Twitter. And hopefully, we'll try to get you on here again soon.
Sounds
Paul.
good to me,
Great.
man.
All right, brother. Until next time, Paul. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.